Good morning, everyone. So, this would be my first talk in Mexico. So, it will basically on the AI products that humans love, human centric products that users love, actually bridging the ML and UX. So, basically, it would be focusing on the human centric approach for the AI product development. And yeah, let's dive into the topic there. So, to first start off with, in order to understand to build a human centric product, first we need to understand that where AI misses the human mark. So now we could see that we are in the current of AI revolution, say. So every startup from the enterprise companies to even with every hackathon, all the features we ship is like racing for shipping the AI features. And out of which it I would say that we are like evolving from the human led tasks to AI led tasks. So in that, for example, say if you build a well built recommendation engine or the intelligence system which has an accuracy of around 95 or greater than 95, but we expect the user adoption to be succeeding with that. But rather the UX layer is what something that decides the adoption, one of the primary layer, I would say. And if at all the UX layer is not as like user expectation, and it's obviously gonna get abandoned by the users. Because I know this gap as I lived in both the worlds of machine learning engineer and as a product designer. So as a machine learning engineer, I could build the intelligent models. Rather, I thought it would get the better UX user adoption for the models. But then if the UX is gonna suck there, then obviously the user adoption is not as we got expected. So next would be the reasons of why users abandon the AI products. So it have many reasons, but then I have categorized into primarily four. So starting off with black input anxiety. So what that mean is like I assume like all of you have used the AI products in day-to-day life for the daily tasks. So out of which blank input anxiety is one thing. For example, if you could see chat GPT in the earlier days, it will be like the just the input box. The user is gonna give the prompt and there will be no any proper onboarding or the guidance. So it is up to the user to decide what they're gonna type in and what is the expected response. So rather than having it very blank and not with a proper onboarding, so it should be a proper onboarding should be there. So one reasons user abandon the AI products is blank input anxiety. And next, if we move on, that would be the confidence and trust gap. So what that means is that I'm sure many developers here already started using Copilot. And if you remember in the earlier versions, so if you could see the AI is going to suggest the code, whether it is up to the user to whether accept or not, and then proceed with that. So in order to accept, we need to have some confidence on what basis the AI is suggesting the code, whether it is correct or not, and it should not be in a hesitation of after accepting, it may generate an error or something. So even with the Microsoft study with the Copilot, they have they have mentioned the highlight point of the developers even felt the same thing. At initial level it seems the code seems correct, but then in depth if they saw it wasn't. So that raises a concern of the developers may miss the certain subtle bugs over there. So in order to get the productivity gain of out of the AI tool, they may miss out the time there. So these are the confidence score. But if they're gonna handle it with the suggestion or the data backed up evidence for that particular code suggestion, it would gonna work out. So this is one of the reason. Another reason the user may get abandoned with the product. And if you remember the earlier version of Google Bard as well, now it is updated to Gemini. But if you're gonna remember that Google Bard, it would be like the user can just type in the whatever the prompt they intended to and they will get the response, but without any citations or references. That leads to the lack of transparency or trust over there. And next is the one important thing is the lack of personalization. So given the n number of AI tools rising over day by day, if the AI tool is gonna give you the output, irrespective of based on your own personality or tone, whatever you suggest, and it doesn't gonna be a very AI product that users gonna love and adopt. For example, say if initial version of ChatGPT, when we're gonna type something, it's gonna suggest it as a ML model. I could suggest these are the things. So this would be the answer for anyone who types in. This is not specifically for my personal prompt or whatever I wish to intend it for. So if this output is going to be same for all, then it is useful for none at all. So that is the another reason. And final would be the poor workflow integration. So what is mean by that is, so the AI tool whatever we use, it needs to be naturally woven into the workflow, users workflow, rather than making the users creating another workflow or going getting out of it. So meaning, uh, meaning if that is the case, for example, say I'm using an AI product and it summarizes me after once the meeting is done, it summarizes me the entire meeting agenda on whatever it is happening, and it is asking me to either should I schedule another follow-up meeting, or these are the key points I need to take action upon. So that is one kind of AI. But whereas the option B, if you could see the AI which is integrated, it would be telling us that these are the key actions and these are the key persons to invite for the next follow-up meeting, and what are suggested actions will already be taken, and it is up to me to whether accept it or decline or edit any of the changes to it. So the AI product you create should be in a way that naturally integrates into the user workflow, which is already they got used to, and not make them come up with the new workflow just because using the another AI product. So these are the some of the reasons why users actually abandon the AI products. And now let's see, like, how can we build the human centric AI products. So primary thing, there are two things. So one is with the understanding the AI UX maturity spectrum, and next is the principles, AI UX heuristic principles, I would say. So to start off with, we can get deep dive into the AI UX maturity spectrum. So primarily there are three stages, I would say. To start off with manual and assistive AI, and then the autonomous AI. So manual, I would say those were the earlier days where we got used to work with the manual effort, time and everything. For example, the earlier version of using Google Excel or the Google Docs, where the manual editing is there and we need to put the effort and time in order to do some particular task. But that has been gone, and now we have moved to the assistive AI. I would say that is a sweet spot right now for most of the AI products we use, because where the human assist is, and it is up to us to whether to proceed with that direction or not. So next would be the autonomous AI. So where the human is taking the passenger seat and AI leads all the tasks given. So in that, if you could see, uh, first is with the manual. So in that, if you could see, all the tasks has been done by the users. For example, say in the Google Excel or in the Google Docs, which I mentioned previously. So next is the assistive AI. So where the human is either going with the AI direction, or it is up to us to decline it. So I would say that is the kind of a good sweet spot where more AI products is right now. For example, say even with the Notion AI or Grammarly or whatever AI products we use in general at most. So all will be like it. It will suggest us to take the next steps or how to proceed here from here, and it is up to us to whether to proceed with that or not. And finally is the autonomous AI. So where AI takes all the tasks, leads the tasks, and human takes the back seat. So one good example would be the Tesla autopilot. So where the AI do all the tasks and it is up to the human to supervise that. And next would be any summarization AI tools. For example, say LinkedIn AI. So it summarizes as based on all the job posting or whatever it is. It gives summarization at last, but without any user input or something. So it is up to user to just to supervise or get to know the knowledge out of it. So one final thing out of this UX AI maturity spectrum, what I would tell is that the maturity of AI is not with the technical model alone, but with how confident and trustable the AI is for the humans to understand and take decisions out of it. So next will be the AI UX principles. So there are many principles, but then I segregated to five categories, I would say. So out of which, starting with transparency. So transparency is something on based on which the users is gonna uh, stick to your product and use it. So it should be more transparent in a way that user can trust and confidently use your product. And next would be the control. So control is basically giving an option for the user to be stay in the loop to whatever the actions taken by the AI. And the third one would be the predictability. So your AI product should be in a way that it is consistent over the tone and the usage, so that the user needs to predict what's the next action is. So they should not get any last minute surprises of each time when they're gonna get the different output. So the user stickiness to the product. And fourth is the error recovery. So obviously the AI products is also gonna fail. So in that case, it needs to be handled in a gracefully, rather not very in an abrupt way or silently. And final one is a value clarity. So given n number of AI products in today's world, and even thousands of products is growing day by day, so you need to make sure that you provide the value clarity at the very first stage when the user starts using your product. So it should be in a, it can be in many ways. Onboarding is one good thing, and based on the adaptive onboarding is another thing. So there are many ways, but you need to make sure you provide the clarity to the users whenever they start using your product. So these are the 5 principles. So now let's dive into detail of each of the principles. So starting off with transparency. So this is something users need to know what is happening in the backside of the AI. Like for example, I'm typing some prompt in Chat GPT, for example, because I'm using the example because most of them must have used it. So when you type in the prompt, you'll be getting the result. But initially, if you could remember, that ChatGPT also doesn't give any citations or references; it only provides the results. In that case, it really lacks the transparency and trust. So after the updates, now it added the feature of having the citations and references, which adds to the transparent layer, and users start using with more trust and confidence. So one such example is this. And I remember Perplexity handles this very well from the initial starting itself. So even from the beginning earlier version of Perplexity, if you could see, there will be always the citation and references, which makes it a go-to tool for any of the user research or researching topics. And this is another tool, the AI tool named Gamma. So in this, if you could see, this is another way of being transparent. So many AI tools now have this format of giving the free credits to the user at the initial stage to get to know the product. So in that case, if you could see, uh, it obviously mentions in a way that these are the remaining credit left to you. And if you're going to take this action, it is costing you 5 credits to it. So these are some of the ways of being transparent with the AI tool. And this is another thing with the perplexity. So if you could see, for a free user, I remember only 3 attachments can be done per day. So in that case, it lets me know there are only 2 attachments left for this particular day. So these are the ways we can be transparent with our AI product. So users is gonna trust and use it. And next is the control. So basically, the control means that the user needs to feel they are empowered using this AI tool rather than replaced. So one such good example is the Gmail. I assume mostly everyone would have been using Gmail. So in this, if you could see the smart Gmail compose feature, so it will be coming up with suggesting with the next words or the characters or sentences to us, and it is up to the user to whether accept it or not and proceed it further. So it is one such example of AI assisting the user flow rather than replacing them. So even with the Notion AI, so it also has one such good feature of either retrying or either up to us the user to accept or reject. And next is the predictability. So predictability meaning that the AI tool should be in such a way that entirely the tool is to be consistent based on the tone or whatever the action it is intended to take. So it should be consistent. So in that case, Grammarly AI plays a good example of having the consistent labels and the annotations and with the usage of colors. So when the users start using it constantly, so even without seeing the legends at the below, they could get to know that this is what the AI means to be and this is what the next step is. So being consistent is very important with your product. And next one is the error recovery. So obviously the AI products is also gonna fail at some times due to various reasons. So if that is the case, there needs to be a way to handle the error recovery so gracefully. rather than not being starting the users to start from the scratch, initially build the prompt and do it again. So if you could see, I assume here many of you use the mid journey to create images. So if you could see, then you will be familiar with the features of having multiple variations, and then the option to just retry with a single click when it fails rather than starting it from the scratch. And finally, the principle is a value clarity. So as I mentioned previously, so you should be make sure that the AI products you build, you need to come up with a way to provide the values, whatever the AI product is intended to provide to the user at the very beginning itself. Because given the n number of AI products here, if it is if the user doesn't gonna understand what is the value getting out of this particular product, then they're gonna switch it obviously. So to have the product user stickiness and the adoption, value clarity is something you need to look into obviously. So in that case, Notion AI plays a good example of having all those in the first initial screen itself. As a first time user, I got to know these are the tasks I can do from the particular AI tool, and these are the icons over there. Even though as a first time user we can't know how it is integrated, how we gonna do that, but it gives an understanding of these are the tools I can integrate and work with. So these are some of the ways which we can produce a value clarity to the user. And at a high level of whatever we discussed so far, if you could say differentiate between the good and bad for the AI product in regarding with the UX, you could say need to have a proper onboarding and with the guided input, and there needs to be a citation or references rather than having no input to your and responses. And finally, you should have a way to control to the user, either they can edit or undo or decline. So next would be the predictable. It should be consistent overall. It should not behave in such a way that suddenly it will be giving with a good response and it will be having hallucination. So everything needs to be handled promptly. So it's like worthy to remember that. So now as an AI takes more decisions, users should always understand what is happening with the AI, how it is happening, and how to stay in control. So finally, this can all be achieved by bridging the ML and UX teams. Obviously, for creating any successful product, all teams needs to be collaborating. But with given the importance with AI products, the obvious two teams need to co-create is the ML team and the UX team, I would say. So these are the three pointers where the successful AI team launches. So first is with the journey building, journey mapping even before building the model. So for example, say this is very important, not just to understand the pain points of user, but also to know at what stages the AI output is safe and what are all the stages that human judgment is very critical. And next is the AI UX heuristics reviews. So based on whatever we saw with the principles, so we need to look on to each of the aspects, starting with transparency, control, and the error recovery or the value clarity, just to make sure it provides a trust to users to use. And finally, it is the co-design ritual of connecting with all the teams and getting to know, actually looking on the actual model rather than the wireframes or the prototypes. So now that we build the model, how are you going to track the success? So obviously with non-AI products, it is we are tracking the metrics of user engagement rate, user conversion rate, and everything. But with given the AI products, so how are we going to track it? Track the success. So these are some of the AI specific metrics the industry specifically used for tracking. So for in each of the segment, I have segregated into four. Starting off with the engagement, it is with the prompt success rate. That is a percentage of prompt that gives the exact response as user intended to. And next is the with the trust, it is the acceptance rate. What is the percentage of response the user accepted versus the number of prompts given. And next is the performance. It is based on all the latency. And with the satisfaction, it is obviously with the NPS, which we used to track with the non-AI products as well. And then the customer effort, I would say. So what is the percentage of thing the user does, and what is the intended output they got out from that particular thing. So these are the some things it is worth noticing or worth tracking for the AI products. And it need to make sure that we measure it quarterly and make sure it meets or expects the industry benchmarks. For example, say a prompt success rate would be somewhere around greater than or 80%. So that's how then users gonna trust your model. So these are some of the metrics worth noting and tracking for your AI product. So finally, so what users is gonna demand for 2025 and beyond? So first thing is transparency over magic. So gone are the days where we were excited to see the chat GPT generating the response based on whatever tasks we given to the particular tool. But then now users want the tool to be more transparent rather than only being very magical. So by transparent meaning, the user need to know the thought process behind the AI model, how it works, and what are the citations and references it made to come up with the particular response. And next is the guided onboarding. So as mentioned previously, it is more like based on the user skill set and user goal of using the particular AI product, we need to onboard in them in such a way that users is getting the knowledge out of it. And next is the explainability plus reasoning. So it is somehow connected with the trust scenario, I would say. So reasoning is something once the AI generates a response, if the user needs to know the reasoning behind it or the thought process behind it, there needs to be a way for the user to know. And finally, the predictable behavior. So it is more of being consistent with the entire tone and approach of the AI tool, whatever you're building to. And these are the things which are intended for the current market. And in order to achieve that, here are some checklists for AI and UX for the AI products which you are building right now. So it is based on all the 5 principles. So starting off with transparency, it has like questions for each of the principles to look into and check on it. Like this can be done in either of the 3 phases. So during the design phase or during the review phase or even during the post launch, you can do this. So this is a shortened version, and if you want the detailed version, you can just scan the QR code and you can get the detailed version of the checklist. And here one challenge which I would tell is that you can pick any of the AI product you use on a daily basis and then apply those heuristic over here. I guarantee you will not look the product the same way again. So let me know what you think. And yeah, from this you can just scan and get it. Or you can connect with me later. I can just share it with you. And next, the call to action I would say is beyond this, like 2025 and beyond, the product succeed is not only by how well the model built is, but also with how trustable and understandable for the users to use the product. So that is the call to action I would say. And what would be the future of UX then? So UX will as be a living system rather than not very static. So by living system, I mean it would be having the individual preferences, adaptive onboarding. By individual preferences, I mean it's already there. The tools which you're gonna get the playlist, for example, say any of the apps, especially the music playing apps, you could see the intent, the user intent. It will gather the user intent on the mood and it will suggest the playlist according to it. And also it will be adaptive to all kind of users. For example, say user is left hand user and it is gonna make the visuals according to them, which is more easy for them to use. And even to the case where it will be suggesting the vacations and based on the weather and your visa renewals as well. So these are the based on the intention, user intention, the AI tool is gonna suggest you that. And the adaptive onboarding, like based on whatever the user goals and intention to use the product, it is gonna come up with the ways. And this is all based on the industry standard and industry standards and the Google Pair framework. So this is what, based on the adaptivity, the UX is gonna get improved. So it's final. So I hope the framework which I have discussed is gonna give you some of the idea to build the foundation of the AI products. And here are the references which I have used for the presentation and everything. And if you want to know, you can just connect with me and I can share it with you. So here the final question now, the challenge is the implementation. So how you're gonna implement starting from Monday, I would say. And if I gonna leave you with one thought and conclude it, like model accuracy is easy to measure, but the user trust isn't. So decide which one you are optimizing for. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you. Any questions, I can happy to answer.